This is what happened to you when you had to grow up too fast. Can I tell you something that breaks my heart? Some of you have been complimented your entire life for surviving. People have always looked at you and said, "You're so mature. You're so responsible. I've never had to worry about you. You're the strong one." And every time they said it, you smiled. But deep down, you were just a kid trying to figure out how to survive. See, when people look at children who had to grow up too fast, they see maturity. I see grief, because every time a child has to become an adult, a piece of their childhood dies. And we don't talk about that enough. See, some of you never got the chance to just be a kid. You were too busy surviving. Maybe you remember hearing your mom cry through the bedroom wall, not once, not twice, over and over again. And while other kids were worrying about cartoons, you were wondering if she was going to be okay. Maybe you walked in her room, rubbed her back, told her everything would be all right, and then went back to your room. You were 8. 8-year-olds aren't supposed to carry their mother's pain. They're supposed to be asleep. Maybe your dad wasn't there. Or maybe he was there physically, but not emotionally. So somebody had to become the man of the house. Maybe that somebody was you. Before you ever learned how to become a man, you were expected to act like one. Maybe your parents were working all the time. Maybe you were making dinner, bathing your little brother, helping your sisters with the homework, making sure everybody ate before you did, checking the doors were locked, putting everyone else to bed. You weren't babysitting, you were parenting. And nobody ever stopped to ask who's taking care of you. Some of you learned how to stretch groceries before you learned algebra. Some of you knew what an eviction notice looked like before you knew what a prom invitation looked like. Some of you worried about keeping the lights on before you ever worried about what college you wanted to attend. That's not maturity, that's survival. Some of you became the family therapist. Everybody came to you, mom, dad, grandma, your siblings. You became the one who listened, the one who solved problems, the one who calmed everyone down, the one who carried secrets, the one who kept the peace. You became emotionally responsible for people who were emotionally responsible for you. That's backwards. I need you to hear me. Just because you were capable doesn't mean it was fair. Just because you figured it out doesn't mean you should have had to. Children don't become adults overnight. Adults are created when children are forced to carry adult burdens. Now look, but let's talk about what your brain did, because your brain is incredible. It looked at your environment and said, if nobody else is going to do it, I guess I have to. And that's exactly what you did. You stopped asking for help. You stopped crying. You stopped complaining. You stopped needing anything, because somewhere along the way, you learned that your needs came second or third, or maybe they never came at all. And when that happens, your brain starts believing something dangerous. If I'm not useful, I don't have value. Listen again. If I'm not useful, I don't have value. Now fast forward 20 years. You're the one everybody depends on at work, in your family, at church, among your friends. Everybody calls you. Everybody leans on you. Everybody says, I don't know what we do without you. Sounds like a compliment, don't it? Until you realize nobody asks how you doing. Because you become so good at carrying everyone else, people assume you don't need anyone to carry you. And maybe you don't even have to let them, because asking for help feels wrong, weak, uncomfortable, even dangerous. And not because it is, because your nervous system never got to practice it. So instead, you overfunction. You fix everything. You solve everyone's problems. You anticipate everyone's needs. You become the dependable one, the reliable one, the strong one. But here's the question. Who's taking care of the strong one? Because eventually, strength without support becomes exhaustion. And exhaustion starts looking like burnout. You tell yourself, I'm just tired. No, you're emotionally dehydrated. You've been pouring into everyone's cup for years without checking if yours was empty. Let's talk about relationships. This is where the wound quietly destroys people. Because when you spent your whole life taking care of everyone else, you start choosing relationships where you're needed instead of relationships where you're loved. You become attracted to broken people, not because you enjoy dysfunction, because fixing people feels familiar. You mistake rescuing for intimacy. You mistake being needed for being loved. You mistake sacrifice for connection. Then one day, You wake up completely exhausted, wondering why every relationship feels one-sided, because you never learned that healthy love is mutual. Healthy love says, I'll carry you today. Healthy love says, you don't have to earn your place here. Healthy love says, you can fall apart sometimes. I got you. But if you never experienced that, it feels uncomfortable. You almost don't know what to do with it, because your identity has always been the one who holds everybody else together. Then something else happens. Rest becomes uncomfortable. Have you noticed that? You finally get a free Saturday, and instead of relaxing, you start cleaning, working, organizing, answering emails, finding something to fix, because stillness feels unfamiliar. Your nervous system says, if we're resting, we're probably forgetting something. So you stay busy, not because you enjoy being busy, because busyness became your survival strategy. And here's another pain point: receiving. Some of you are incredible at giving, terrible at receiving. Somebody buys you a gift, you immediately feel like you owe them. Somebody offers to help, your first response is, nah, I'm good. Even when you're drowning. Why? Because independence became your armor. The problem is armor protects you, but it also keeps people from embracing you. Now let's heal. Healing begins the moment you stop confusing survival with identity. You are not just the strong one. You became strong because you had to. Those are two different things. Start asking yourself questions you probably never asked before. What do I need today? Not what does everyone else need? What do I need? What am I feeling? Not what is everyone else feeling? Where do I need support? Not where can I be useful? At first, those questions will feel selfish. They're not. They're healthy. Here's something I want you to practice this week. This week, when someone asks, how can I help? Don't you automatically say, I'm fine. Pause. Take a breath and tell them one thing, one real thing. It might be uncomfortable. Good. That's what healing feels like sometimes. Healing isn't becoming weak. Healing is realizing you were never supposed to carry the world by yourself. And if you're a parent listening to this, please hear me. Let your children be children. Don't make them your counselor. Don't make them your marriage therapist. Don't make them your emotional support system. Don't hand them burdens their shoulders were never designed to carry. They will carry them. Children almost always do. But then they'll carry them into adulthood. And then they'll spend years wondering why they can't relax, why they can't trust anyone else to help, why they feel guilty resting, why they only feel valuable when they're sacrificing themselves. Don't confuse a quiet child with a healthy child. Some children are quiet, but because they learned there's no room for anyone else. And if that's the childhood you had, I want you to hear something that maybe no one else has ever said to you. I'm proud of the child you were. You survived things you should have never had to survive. You carried weight that would have crushed some adults. You protected people. You loved people. You sacrificed for people. You did the best you could with what you had. But that child can finally put the weight down now. You ain't got to keep proving how strong you are. The strongest thing you may ever do is let someone love you without making you earn it. The strongest thing you may ever do is admit you're tired. The strongest thing you may ever do is allow yourself to need people, because strength isn't measured by how much you can carry alone. Strength is measured by having the courage to stop carrying what was never yours in the first place. What happened to you created emotional residue. It taught you to survive, but you weren't created just to survive. You were created to live, to laugh, to rest, to receive, to be cared for, to be known. And to finally experience what childhood should have taught you all along, that your worth has never depended on how much you could carry. You were worthy long before you became the strong one. Amen.